Yar! Welcome to another episode of This is Reviewable, mateys, where we review shanties, and more shanties. This isn't your landlubber grandmother's podcast. Yar! Say something.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, you like that? Could I be a radio DJ for a pirate shanty station?
Honestly, yeah, that was really good. I think your throat would start hurting after a while, though, don't you think?
It for sure would.
How's it feel now?
But it wouldn't hurt as much as it did when I did the Doom video. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyways, this week, we didn't get to a movie, did we?
No, but we watched a TV show.
Yeah, we did.
Why are you acting as though that's lesser?
It's not. We watched The Bear, Season 3. Right, Micah?
That's right, Braden.
And a little bit of context. The Bear, Season 2 was both of our favorite TV shows last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, by a mile.
Yeah.
And, well, I guess last year we watched Season 1 and Season 2. So I guess, we were saying the entire show was our favorite. But, yeah, Season 1 and Season 2 we loved. So we were excited for this. Weren't we? Do you think we should explain what The Bear is about? I think yes.
Yeah, so The Bear is, the whole premise of the show is there's this very dysfunctional family. What's her last name?
Berzato.
Which means bear in Italian.
No.
What's it mean? Why do they call them bear then?
Because they call them bear because Bearzato. It's just a way.
Like
it's just a way to shorten it. Yeah. Bear in Italian is orso.
Is what?
Orso.
Not orzo?
No, with an S. Orso.
Yeah, orso.
And yeah, I've seen the last name Orsolini a lot, and I like that.
Aww.
Little bears.
Aww.
Yeah. Anyway.
So this very dysfunctional family, they have a family restaurant called The Beef, the original Beef, and the oldest brother, Mikey, was running it, and...
Played by John the Punisher Bernthal.
Yeah, he ended up...
self-deleting?
Yeah, self-deleting. Yeah, that's what it was. And so, Carmi, who always wanted to work with Mikey in the family restaurant, and Mikey never let him, went off before self-deletion, went off and became a very successful chef. And when Mikey self-deleted, Carmi came back and took over the restaurant. And the show is about Carmi and his experience and the employees' experience of Carmi taking over the Beef.
Right. And trying to keep his...
it afloat.
The restaurant alive, his brother's legacy. Because really it was just Mikey that was in charge of that restaurant.
I think the dad started it, though.
Did he?
Yeah, but then he went and ran away.
Okay. And yeah, so it's labeled as a comedy. This is an interesting little tidbit. Apparently it's the most nominated comedy show for the Emmys in history. And this is an example of category fraud. I actually haven't seen what it's nominated for, but this is not a comedy, really.
Mm-mm.
Like, very barely a comedy. We started this, with the expectation that it was going to be really funny because I'd heard great things about it, and it was labeled as like a comedy drama, not a drama comedy. So I was thinking it was going to be really funny, but it's not. That's not the focus at all. It deals a lot with
real shit.
Yeah,
like real life. People losing their jobs, and self-deletion, and parents with a ton of trauma that they just dump on their kids, and mental health, and people losing their jobs, and how are they going to support their family, and
how intense the professional kitchen can be.
Yeah.
But it does have a lot of funny moments too. But that's not the focus of this show. So if you go into this show expecting it to be a light, funny time, you're gonna walk out feeling like you've been whiplashed like crazy. Right, Micah?
Yeah. But it is such a good show.
Yeah.
And I really think the third season really showed how other people's trauma can affect you.
Yeah.
And how other people's shit that they haven't dealt with gets dumped on you, and then you internalize that.
I'll be honest, I didn't like season 3 as much
No, I didn't either.
as the other two.
It had moments
Yeah.
of being the bear, but I feel like this season took itself too seriously.
Yes.
If you have watched this season, I mean, the first episode of this season dragged.
Yeah.
It could have been a 10-15 minute thing, and it would have been perfect. The first episode of season 3 is Carmi's pretty much his whole restaurant experience. And they go through
Of him learning to be a chef.
And it's very quiet. It has moments of being quiet. It has moments of being very slow.
Tons of cuts of all the dishes he's making. Tons of cuts of all the different chefs that he's worked under. Mostly good, but there's one very toxic chef that he worked under. With like slow music playing in the background, and it takes forever.
Yeah. So it was kind of, in my opinion, a rough start to the season.
Yeah.
With that episode.
Let me say this as well. I know this doesn't really matter, but this will give you kind of an idea of how the reception of this season has been. So season 1 of The Bear, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, has 100% positive from critics, 92% positive from audience. Season 2, 99% and 93%. Season 3, 90% from critics, 52% from audience.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Because it truly did have moments.
No, it had really, really great stuff in it.
And I still enjoyed the season.
Yeah.
Just not as much as the other two seasons.
Yeah. I think seeing a 53 is pretty harsh.
Because honestly, I think season 1 and season 2,
are perfect. As close to perfect as
hits out of the park.
Yeah.
Season 3,
it's
a double.
It's a double, you think?
Yeah, that's it.
Is it an RBI double or just a double?
No, I don't know that.
Run. Did they score a run with it, or did they just get 2 people on base?
I think they just got 2 people on base.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Did you like that reference?
Yeah, I like that. I think my biggest problem with it is as much as I said it's not a comedy, season 1 interlaced heavy stuff with comedy.
And it had slow moments.
Perfectly. And season 2 did as well.
Or maybe I'm thinking of season 2 had slow moments.
Yeah, I think season 2 had slow moments.
Yeah, because like when Marcus goes to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
That's slow. It was good.
Yeah. But the problem with season 3 is every episode feels like a Copenhagen episode.
Yeah.
And there's not enough. It almost feels like it's just everybody gets to take turns having trauma throughout every episode of the season.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's just nonstop.
Everyone's issues.
A big bummer party.
Yeah.
Because
there was this episode. Are we going to go through some of the episodes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just past halfway through the season, one of the side characters, Tina, it's like her origin story, kind of how she found the beef.
Yeah.
And her and her husband both have jobs to support their family and all of that. She loses her job at the beginning of the episode. And for, let's just say it's a 40-minute episode. For 30 minutes, 35 minutes, it's her just trying to find a job. And she'd been with the same company for 15 years. And her going back into the workforce without a degree, but she's able to do these jobs because that's what she's been doing for 15 years.
But she doesn't have a degree.
Yeah. And so they won't even let her interview, pretty much. But for 35 minutes of a 40-minute episode, that's what it is.
You didn't like that?
It was too long. If it had been 20 minutes...
Because the ending of that episode's good.
It's really good. And that was, I think, one of the moments where I was like, this feels like the bear right here at the end of the episode. But her, figuring out LinkedIn, figuring out Indeed, going to places of employment and dropping off her resume, it didn't need to be 35 minutes long.
Yeah. I think that the average length of these episodes went up by like 10 minutes from season 1 to 2.
Oh, really?
Or from season 2 to 3. Season 1 and 2 were like, they felt very bite-sized, 20 to 30 minutes, but it's still telling like
I think it was 30 minutes.
30 minutes. But it's still telling like an
incredible story in 20 minutes. Or
right.
30 minutes.
And it weaves into the next story as well. These ones felt like...
They felt long. They
felt a little too long.
And 40 minutes or 60 minutes is not unreasonable for an episode length.
No.
At all.
But the way that these were filmed and
it was a bit too artsy.
They're spending too long on some of those montages and...
Yeah.
But I just wished that there was more balance of like happy and sad. Because that's what this show has always been to me.
Yeah.
It's been... Yes, it deals with real stuff, but it also has a positive bent.
You know what I think we were missing, or what the issue was? I felt like they wanted the facts to carry this season in humor, when that's what the other 2 seasons hadn't been. They were like sprinkled in, but it was like Richie and Carmi's relationship and Sugar and like all these other characters that had humor. And then, like, the facts would, like, show up and add a little sprinkle on top.
It can't just be the facts, because the facts are funny in, like, tiny bite-sized doses. If you spend too much on the facts, it's like, okay, get these guys off screen, please.
Yeah. But do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, I will give it to them. They had really funny moments. Haunting? That's so funny.
That's a funny idea.
Yes.
But it just, again, that went on too long.
Yeah.
And... Yeah.
Well, I just want to explain this really fast. So Fax, F-A-K-S, that's their last name, and everyone just calls them Fac. They have this idea in their family of like a haunt.
Yeah.
Which is basically like, Braden does something to annoy me, so now I'm gonna haunt him.
Yeah.
We're both alive, but I'm gonna haunt him. And in their family, like the Facs of the show, their dad and their uncle, the dad was haunting the uncle, I think, for like 10 years or something. And they were talking about all the things that their dad did to their uncle.
No, the uncle did to their dad, I thought.
Oh, was it that way? Right?
Yeah,
whatever. Whatever. And I'm just going to keep going. The dad started 1,500 businesses in the uncle's name as like, that was one of his haunts.
Yeah.
And like, you just pull all these ridiculous pranks because you're upset with each other, which is just so funny.
Yeah. A haunt. I like it how it's called a haunt.
A haunt.
I told you it was Halloween.
Yeah, that's true.
It's Halloween. There was a fight that Carmi and Richie had at the very beginning. I think it was in the second episode. That was really funny. Remember?
Yeah.
When they're like talking through Sydney to each other and
yeah.
Chef Sid, tell Richie that he's a f***ing idiot. Chef Sid, could you please tell Carmi I'm not a f***ing idiot and he's being f***ing stupid? It's just, I'm not doing the writing justice, but
no, it was so funny.
It's really funny, and it needed more of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the season, I mean, should we talk that much more about it without spoiling things? Like, should we be giving details about what happens in the season?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I also was I wanted a little bit more resolution to some of the things that were going on with some of the characters.
Like with Carmi?
Yeah, with Carmi specifically.
Yeah. Same. I think we were talking about this last night.
Yeah. I would have liked some more with Sid as well.
More growth. This has always been Braden's issue with Sid. He feels like they portray her as a perfect character, right?
Yes, but I think they added something in the very last episode that I liked.
Yeah.
With Sid. But yeah, she's got this incredibly snarky, sarcastic personality, and whenever she walks into a room, no matter where she's going, the faces that she's pulling makes it look like she'd rather be literally anywhere else than where she is.
Yeah.
Like it seems like she's always rolling her eyes and like just looking at everything and judging it. And whenever whenever like arguments happen in the kitchen, she's like, "Okay, well, this is your fault," and like just very
Why are we doing
extremely
blah, blah, blah?
passive aggressive, widening her eyes all the time. Her body language is super sarcastic, but the show never
addresses it.
Never portrays her as being in the wrong.
No.
And like if I worked with someone like that, it would drive me crazy. But then she's also got like moments of being really kind, especially towards Tina.
But even those, she's like, I'm trying to think of what happened. She's helping Tina remake a dish, and she's like, "Okay, you got it? Okay, Tina, do you got it?" Or blah blah blah. Like that's how she's talking. And if someone was doing that to me in a very hot, this is just me, I'm not speaking for everybody, but if someone was talking to me like that in a very high intensity environment where I had just messed up several times and now I needed someone to come over and assist me, I would cry. Yeah. Because I wouldn't feel like you believe in me.
And that's not a problem in and of itself, because Carmy is a complete dick when he's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And, Tina started out being a complete dick in the kitchen. And what's the Marcus? Marcus started out with, his problems in the kitchen. Richie started out being a complete dick in the restaurant. All of those characters have had to apologize to Sid for the way that they've acted.
Sid even stabbed one of them accidentally. And they never talk about it. Remember, she accidentally stabbed Richie.
So that's why I like the way those other characters are portrayed, because
they know that they're not perfect.
They're very flawed, but like they're trying. Sid feels like she doesn't even realize that she's flawed, or maybe that the writers don't think she's flawed. And so I just by season 3, I'm starting to find her character really frustrating. But that being said, they gave her a little bit of a chink in the armor at the end.
Yeah.
So that, I was happy with that. Which is, when we explain what that chink in the armor is, it's going to sound like kind of a really, like a crappy thing to cheer for, that it happened.
Yeah.
But, for the sake of the character, I think it was necessary. But yeah, it's very mixed. I did feel like Sugar got a good arc, a good development arc this season. And Jamie Lee Curtis comes back. Is that a spoiler?
I don't know.
For an episode?
I think it's fine.
I will say, I don't think I liked her as much in this episode as I liked her in the season 2 episode. But she still had some moments being.
We'll talk about it.
Okay. What else?
The thing with season 3, Carmy just takes over. Him and Sid are supposed to be partners in the kitchen, right? And he decides that they're going to change the menu every single day.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a new menu every single day. Which is just, I can't even imagine that. Whatever. That's just so absurd. That's so much work, whatever. But he doesn't even talk to Sid about it before announcing it to the whole restaurant.
Yeah.
Which is an issue, I feel like. And he just kind of, he's very obviously dealing with some stuff that he chooses not to deal with and then takes it out on his employees. But that was something that was very eye-opening to see. Because it's not unheard of to not deal with your trauma and to take it out on other people. And it was just interesting to see like a bird's eye view of that.
Yeah. Tell me why Cicero is one of my favorite characters.
I know.
He's awesome.
Unk.
Every time I'm happy to see him.
Yeah.
Do you know he's the food critic and chef? The one that pisses Jon Favreau off and he's screaming at in the...
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's him.
That was a funny scene.
Yeah. It's molten!
Oh yeah, that is so.
My shirt was molten!
That's funny.
If you haven't seen Chef, watch Chef.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
Yeah. That one is very fun. That one's very funny, very, not really a downer movie at all. It's just super positive, super uplifting.
Yeah.
And then lots of good food. It'll make you very hungry. But
all right, should we rate this?
Yeah, let's rate season 3. It's a really mixed baggie, but overall, I still enjoyed it. I still think it's shot very well and edited very well. I think they just
got lost in the art.
They disappeared up their own asses a little bit, maybe. And it's still acted very well too. The components are all there. I just think it needs a little bit of a course correction. Maybe trim down the episodes back to what they were in season 1 and 2. And overall, don't make it just so sad and so much trauma, so much, it needs a little bit of lightheartedness to balance that out. I think that's what made season 1 and 2 work so well. But all that being said, I'll give season 3 a 7.5. Because it can't be, I don't want to give it a lower score than the Deadpool movie. That feels harsh.
A 7.5 what?
I'll give it a 7.5 dollar bills in the tomato sauce out of 10.
That's pretty good. I agree with everything Braden just said about the season. I think definitely if they had shortened some of these episodes so they didn't have so much time to just, trauma dump, if they or if they had more little funny moments.
Yeah.
It would have been better for me.
Yeah.
Because at the end of Tina's episode, there is a really funny moment. And that made it better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That if they'd had more like that, I would think I would have liked this season a lot more. I could have dealt with the trauma dumping a bit more because there were funny moments. So I think I'm gonna rate this also a 7.5. I wanted to give this an 8, but I just don't think it deserves it. A 7.5.
Which is really sad to say.
I know, so sad.
Because I would have given season 2 a 10.
Yeah.
And season 1 like a 9.5 probably. I don't remember if we scored them or not, but
I don't remember. A 7.5. Crying into your Sammy.
Oh, I remember this. Okay. Anything spoilery you want to talk about?
Yeah. It was very interesting to see in the last episode, Carmy is at a dinner party for one of his favorite chefs that he worked for.
Yeah.
And there is his arch nemesis. Jeff
from Community.
Yeah, Jeff from Community. The chef that just was such an asshole to him, was so mean, only tore him down.
Yeah.
Constantly humiliated him in front of the entire kitchen.
Yeah. Everything negative you can think of, that's what he was to Carmy. And when they confront each other, Chef Jeff from Community doesn't.
He says, "You're welcome."
He doesn't even realize that what he did could be a negative thing.
All he thinks is, "You're welcome," and he says that to Carmy. Carmy says, "I'm welcome. I'm welcome." He goes, "Yeah, you were not that good when you came to me, and now you're great."
Yeah.
But it was so interesting because we've seen throughout the show clips of Carmy working in Chef Jeff's kitchen.
Chef Jeff from Community?
Yeah, Chef Jeff from Community, his kitchen, and how truly awful he was.
Yeah.
But I feel like I didn't truly understand the effect that chef had on Carmy until the last episode. Because I think they kind of went through and said, they show what Chef Jeff from Community said to Carmy, and then what Carmy is saying to his chefs in his kitchen. And it's almost a direct quote.
He's inherited.
Yeah, he's trauma dumping onto his employees.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting because that Chef Jeff from Community was such an impactful person that you can see kind of, let's just replace that with his mom.
Well, that's
where he hasn't dealt with stuff, and he's continuing, and that's where, family trauma just keeps going.
That's where his obsession with making the dishes perfect, I think, came from as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of scenes of this needs to get good or go away.
Yeah.
This is shit. That there's too many
direct quotes from Chef Jeff from Community.
There's too much on this plate. You need to make it simpler.
But I think that it's so interesting because Carmy and Natalie Sugar are siblings, and you can see where Natalie has tried to deal with her shit from their parents. And she doesn't want to be. She's listening to self-help books. Yeah. And then when her mom shows up and she at the hospital and is there to help, and Natalie is like, I need you to calm down. You can see that she's trying to be different from her parents. And I don't see Carmy trying to be different from his his parents, but also from this traumatic figure.
He's trying to distract himself.
Yeah. He's not dealing with it.
No.
And that is something that I think was really good. That was very eye-opening about this show.
You know what? There were a couple of moments in this show where I was like, whoa, that's actually really profound, and I can apply that into my life probably.
Yes.
So maybe it deserves higher than a 7.5 just for that. I don't know. It's still very worth watching. Like, there's a conversation that Carmy has with Cicero, where Cicero's dropping off his golf clubs.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Cicero is saying, I'm sorry that I didn't help you more.
I didn't do more. And he's like...
Because Cicero throughout the season, I think has said that a couple different times to different people.
But this is the first time he said it to one of them.
To one of the kids, yeah.
That he wishes that he'd helped the Brazados more because their mom has
bipolar,
lots of issues.
Manic.
And then whatever happened with their dad that we don't know. But Carmy's like, what could you have done? And like, yeah, that's true. But then Cicero says, I could have tried. I could have tried. And then Carmy says the same thing about his brother, Mikey. He's talking about Mikey. And then Cicero's like, what could you have done? And then Carmy says, I could have tried. And it's like, that's pretty profound. Like, you can, I don't know. I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's moments like that in this season where, like, the serious stuff really hits you where it should, but then there's other moments where the serious stuff just washes over you because it's like it's not really saying much. It's just saying this happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it feels cliche almost, like how the characters react to it. But then there's moments like that where it actually has something really applicable to say. So that's why it's so, I guess, disappointing. Like the drop in quality is noticeable between really great scenes and then scenes that are just okay. The hospital part with Jamie Lee Curtis.
I really liked it.
You liked it? You liked the whole thing?
Pretty much. I mean, it really showed. So, obviously, Carmy and Natalie do not have a good relationship with their mom, as we've seen in previous seasons. And Natalie never told their mom, Jamie Lee Curtis, that she was pregnant. She kept saying, I need to call mom and talk to her. And she's about to have the baby. She's going into labor and she can't get a hold of anybody. Nobody's answering their phone. So she calls mom.
Yeah.
Mom shows up at the hospital and is already very frantic. And Natalie's like, you need to calm down. Mom's like, I am calm. You need to calm down, Just very high energy. Almost manic. Not totally manic, but...
Well, she's really happy.
She's very excited.
Yeah.
She can't control it.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because she is different than what we've seen in previous seasons. She says that she's working on herself, and I feel like it showed, as this character. And when Natalie's husband shows up,
she takes a backseat.
She takes a backseat, which I don't think she could have done in the previous seasons.
No. Yeah, so that was a really good episode.
Yeah. And it was just interesting Natalie having a positive, even though it was stressful, a positive experience with her mom before her kid is born.
Yeah. So you get to, like, Natalie sucked it up and tried again with her mom. Natalie got an arc.
But she'd also been working on herself.
Yeah.
They showed that throughout the season, you know, that she at some point was talking to Richie, and it's like, how do you keep what's going on in your head from affecting your future kid, you know?
Yeah.
Richie's like, I don't know.
You don't really.
And, you know, Natalie's trying. She's trying to be different. She's trying to break the cycle that she was born into.
Right.
Which is amazing.
It seems like everyone in the show, bar Carmi, has made progress. I'm gonna leave Sid aside because she's a different story. But everyone in the show that has had problems has demonstrated growth. Richie, definitely.
Yeah.
Sugar, definitely. Carmi's mom, definitely. Tina, definitely. Marcus, definitely. Carmi, not really. It feels like he's spinning his wheels.
And I think that was the point.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this last night, that I felt unresolved at the end. Were you done with your thought? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
That I felt unresolved at the end of the season because in season 2, Carmi and Claire break up because of all the horrible things that Carmi said.
Well, he was trapped in the freezer during the first night of service. He was really frustrated, and he was just
trauma dumping. You know, that's what it was. He just was freaking out. And so they break up, and it's very obvious. They talk about it throughout the whole season, how he still thinks about her, and he misses her, or whatever. It comes up a few different times.
I think some aspects of the show are very inspired from Whiplash. Or maybe they carry common themes, but like in Whiplash, Neiman dumps his girlfriend because he feels like she's going to hold him back. And that's basically what Carmi is saying in the freezer. And his girlfriend overhears him say that. And they break up because of it. And then also in Whiplash, you've got J.K. Simmons, who is
a horrible person, but says you're welcome.
His theory, his whole theory on teaching music is
let me be a massive asshole to pull out the greatness.
And that's exactly what Chef Jeff from Community does.
Yeah.
So that, you know, there's definitely parallels
for sure. But I felt unresolved because everybody's telling Carmi, apologize to her. You miss her. You love her.
Yeah.
You love her. Apologize. And he almost calls her, and then he doesn't.
Yeah.
And then the facts show up at Claire's work and say, he loves you. Call him. And she's like, you guys can't be here. You know, that was kind of a funny moment, but
I don't understand how Fact's brain works.
I don't.
He'll be like making a point, and I'm sure in his mind it makes perfect sense to what he's trying to get across, but you're just like, what does that mean, Fac?
Yeah.
How does that doesn't apply here.
And then they end the season without any contact.
Yeah.
So I just felt very unresolved. Even if he called her and she said hello and they ended the season.
Yeah.
At least I knew something had happened and Carmi had grown a pair and had tried.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was missing that.
Yeah. I thought I was going to really like the last episode, you know, bringing all those chefs back. I didn't really like it that much.
Except for the part with...
I loved the part with Chef Jeff from Community.
Yeah.
And I liked the part where Carmi's talking to Olivia Colman.
Mm-hmm.
That was good too.
It was funny when she was like, when Carmi's already standing outside and she's like, oh, you gave up smoking? And he's like, yeah, what about you? Oh, I just started.
Started today. The day that because she's quitting because she wants to live her life.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody's there to, like, you know, say farewell to her restaurant and all that. But like the bulk of the episode is just, I wonder if it was made for chefs.
Maybe.
Because it's like just a bunch of chefs sitting around a table talking about their experiences being chefs and why they
and it wasn't very relatable.
No, I was just like, okay, this just feels like a bunch of cliche bland. Let's
Well,
move on. I want to get to him confronting Chef Jeff from Community,
yeah.
and I want some humor. Damn it! Like, just I don't like the whole let's sit around and sing a kumbaya at the table about being a chef.
Yeah.
So maybe it really just wasn't for me, and that's fine. But I just didn't
relate to it.
No.
Did you want to talk about the Sid at the last episode?
Oh yeah, the thing that Sid does is she has a panic attack. And that's why I said it's kind of weird to cheer for someone having a panic attack. But like I feel like this is the first time where Sid spilled like a carton of beans or something in the very first season, but like apart from that, that's the only time where she hasn't been portrayed as super capable that I can remember. And like, having everything figured out. I just like it when they throw some flaws into Sid's character.
Yeah.
Because it makes her a little bit less like a perfect little angel. Although I guess throughout the season she is dodging signing the partner agreement, and that's super flaky. And now she's being super flaky with the other guy. So we'll see where they go with that. Maybe that'll cause some problems later. But there was another thing I wanted to say that I forgot. Oh, what do you think about the little Bradley Cooper?
That was funny.
Easter egg.
Yeah, which means Bert and the bear are in the same universe.
Yeah. I actually read somewhere, like I read like a snippet that there was Bradley Cooper cameo in the bear, and I was like getting really excited for it. And then when it was just like a picture of him, I was like, oh, is that it? Dang it. I wanted him to be like, in the restaurant.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. But that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
What do you think about John Cena as the other fac?
It didn't make any sense, especially later on when the facts were like, oh, the facts definitely have a body type, don't they? And John Cena is like, John Cena.
He doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like...
But he was funny.
He was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
After we were so rudely interrupted. Should we move on?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
I watched a mini series. It was called Bad Sisters. And so this show is about a family. The parents died when the kids were really young, so the oldest sister, Eva, had to take care of her 4 younger sisters. She was like in her early 20s, I think. And one of the sisters has married a real douchebag.
Yeah.
All the sisters hate him. They did such a good job of making you hate this guy.
And they're all Irish.
Yeah. This guy's a real asshole. You just really freaking hate this guy. And I don't know how much I really want to say about it. Should I say that they all want to kill him?
Yeah, sure. Isn't that a main part of the show?
Yeah, but I don't want to ruin it.
It's like the main premise.
Okay, so basically, one by one, the sisters hang out a lot, but not the one that is married to this guy. So Grace is married to the douchebag, and all the other sisters hang out a lot because they're each other's friends. And there's one night that the sisters are hanging out, and one of them is like, oh, wouldn't it be so great if Grace's husband was just dead? And all of them are like, yeah, honestly, that would be kind of good. And then they all go about living their life. And then one of them comes back to Eva and is like, we should do it. And he was like, what? No, you're being crazy. And then something horrible happens with John Paul, the douchebag, and Eva. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then one by one, pretty much all the sisters, except for Grace, the wife, come to Eva and the original sister, Bibi, and say, remember that conversation we had? Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So all, 4 of the 5 sisters have decided that they're going to do this. And the show is about them trying to kill John Paul, Grace's husband. And it was really well done. It's very well acted. and there's a subplot going on throughout the whole show that is really good. I really liked it. There is like the sisters go to this place called I think it's called like 40 Foot or something, and where they go swimming in the water and in Ireland, and it just looks so cold.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, that looks fun, but so cold. Which is kind of, but yeah, I mean, it definitely has like funny moments, and it's dramatic, and it's really, really rough at points. But
Is it total drama action?
mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna rate this show like a 8.75. I want to rate it a 9, but I don't know if
It's not in the Hall of Nines.
right. So I think I'm gonna get it as close as possible. An 8.75 of you'll shoot your eye out, kid.
I like The Wizard of Oz.
So that's what I watched.
All right. I think I'm going to talk about this.
Okay, but that's a lot of notes, and maybe you shouldn't use all the notes because the episode is already like almost an hour.
Okay. Well, I just want to wash my hands of this book, guys.
Oh, why?
Let me look up how long it is. Because it's like I think it's like 15 hours long to listen to.
15?
Yeah.
That's not that long.
I know. And I got through most of it. I only have 3 hours left.
How are you talking about this then?
Because I get the point.
You don't know what the ending is.
It's the hero's journey. That's what this book is about. So the book is Hero with 1,000 Faces. And it's written by Joseph Campbell, and this is where the archetypal hero's journey comes from. You know, the steps that your story supposedly needs to take in order to be a correct story or whatever. That's sort of like how the hero's journey is taught nowadays. I mean, you learned about it in high school, right?
I don't remember. But probably.
Basically, like a ton of stories supposedly follow this format where it's like let me just look at the steps real quick. I don't want to mess it up. Hero's journey steps. The call to adventure. The hero receives a call. Could come in the form of a message, a dream, or an encounter with a mentor or a guide. The refusal of the call. The hero may initially refuse to go on the adventure. Meeting the mentor. You encounter a guide. So that would be like Luke and Obi-Wan, for example. Or Harry and Hagrid, maybe. You know, someone that can help guide you through the beginning of the world. Crossing the threshold, you leave the known world behind and you cross into the unknown. Tests, allies, and enemies. You know, self-explanatory. The approach.
Bilbo and Gandalf.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Oh, thanks.
Often the guide is also called like the wizard because you know they're sort of a mystical, old, experienced, almost magical person. Dante and Virgil is another example. Approach to the inmost cave. They face their greatest fears and challenges here. The ordeal, the moment of the greatest challenge. The reward, the hero receives a reward, often in the form of knowledge, insight, or a powerful object. The road back, you begin to come back. The resurrection, the hero experiences a moment of death and rebirth, often symbolized by a physical or metaphorical transformation. In The Matrix, this is when Neo is literally resurrected, and then the return. He comes home. The hero comes home with the gift or the reward that they've received, and they're able to help their world with this new gift. So, if we continue the Matrix example, Neo is reborn, and now he realizes he's the one, and he's able to defeat all the agents and help Zion, whatever. And then the last one is the freedom to live. The hero achieves a state of freedom and enlightenment, often living happily ever after. So these are the steps. And the book basically outlines the steps, underpins it with psychoanalysis, gives a ton of examples of how mythologies fit into these steps, but it's extremely boring. It is not fun to read. And a lot of what's written, like a lot of the way that the examples are written and just the prose in general, it almost feels like poetry, which is really frustrating for a book that's supposed to be explaining to you how all of mythology supposedly throughout history follows this outline of steps. But like it's written in like such an obtuse way that it's really hard to listen to for 15 hours and totally understand without like just zoning it out at a certain point. I also was like looking up other people's opinions on this book, and I'm glad to see that I'm really not alone in not liking it. The book, so some of his theories are underpinned by Freud and Jung, who were two psychologists, psychoanalysts, and they had some wacky ideas, Micah. Let's just say. So one of the things that Joseph and he uses their like theories to prove certain archetypes within stories. So for example, Freud was in part famous for saying that all men want to sleep with their mother and they want to kill their father. And so because of that, because of this truth that Freud has uncovered, now we understand where the Oedipus complex comes from, like why Oedipus, as if that proves Freud's theory.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And as if that explains the stories where things like that happen. It doesn't really.
Yeah.
But he's using this almost like, it's harsh, but he's using this pseudoscience to prove his point. And he's cherry picking examples from mythology to like reinforce it.
Say, see?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. And there's
a bunch of other counterpoints.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's also another thing that he is using is this idea that there's a collective unconsciousness in humanity where like
Well, don't you think that's what dream scenario is talking about?
No.
A collective consciousness?
Like in this sense, Jung says that the collective unconsciousness is basically like we as humans, by virtue of just being humans, we understand certain things and we know certain things like before we're born. And we have these things basically downloaded into our minds just because we're human. And that's why there's so many similarities through all these stories, because of the collective unconsciousness.
Do you agree with that?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
I think that that's a way more outlandish theory than, like for example, why does Jonah go into the whale, and why are there so many other stories about like, being swallowed up by a beast? And Joseph Campbell is like, it's because of the collective unconsciousness. Or it's because that throughout all of history,
people tell stories.
And like, we've been living next to predators for centuries. Would it not make sense for somebody to write a scary story about being swallowed up by a predator? Is that not a more simple explanation than a collective unconsciousness? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, there's easier explanations for why there's similarities between stories. There's also like, have you heard?
So it's almost like, let's just find the most complicated explanation for something and say that that's the truth. That's what you're saying.
It seems like he came up with a hypothesis.
And he really wants it to be true.
And he wants it to be true. So he's like, he's doing backflips to like prove his own hypothesis. Have you ever heard of like how there's a bunch of flood myths throughout the world? And like people
for like Noah and the Ark.
Yeah, but there's like flood myths in multiple continents. And like the classic religious argument is like, see, this proves that the flood in the Bible happened because all these people have flood myths. But then the really easy counterpoint is, well, no, like human civilization has always needed to live next to water. There's always going to be floods happening if you live next to water, whether you live next to a river or, you get tsunamis in Japan, overflowed rivers, lakes. Like it makes sense geographically why all these cultures would have dealt with floods in the past. That doesn't mean you can all of a sudden say there was a worldwide flood. That's not a proof of the great flood from the Noah story. It's sort of the same idea here. Like there's simpler explanations for what Joseph Campbell perceives as being like a collective unconsciousness. Yeah. So anyway, if you can't tell, I did not enjoy this book very much. It's sort of interesting for the first couple of hours, but then as you just start listening to it, it's just so hard to freaking chew through. And maybe I'll keep trying because I am pretty close to the end, but I think I've read enough to know what this book is about, and I don't like it. I'm going to give it a 4.5 half-baked ideas.
Damn.
Out of 10. So that's that.
All right. Well, what do you have coming up, friend?
We've been watching Smiling Friends.
Oh yeah, we're almost done with
2.
that.
We're gonna start House of the Dragon.
Yeah, but I doubt that'll be done next week.
Probably not. What are the other shows that we've been meaning to get around to?
I meant to tell you needed to write them down. There were a few that you named off, but that's okay.
There's the Jake Gyllenhaal one.
Oh yeah.
Movie. There's Fargo. We're gonna start Fargo at some point. I'm so close to finishing Atlanta. I only have 2 episodes left.
I'm almost done with my book.
Your series?
I only have 10.5 hours left.
Oh, look at that.
So I'm hoping to have that done for next week, but we will see.
Are you going to finish Kena, Bridge of Spirits, ever?
Yeah, it's just so annoying because I don't like having to set it up. That's why I didn't play it yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get a desk.
Yeah.
Just that one thing, that one change will make it feel so much nicer.
Yeah.
All right. No movies, huh? There's no movies.
Oh. We'll talk about it. Okay. Good?
Yep.
Okay, have a great week, everybody.
Yarr!